They want him to go away. Let me tell you this right now. Donald J. Trump ain't going anywhere.
We've been called clowns and deplorables and ignorant rednecks. We've been called the evil resistance.
What were your thoughts on the violent insurrection incited by Trump at the Capitol?
Oh my God, that's all such a lie. That was all the left. We have all the proof. There's tons of proof.
When he lost the election, they said he has a plan. He's still going to say that.
Trump didn't lose the election, sir.
But he did.
Trump did not lose the election.
This is CNN Breaking News.
I'm Pamela Brown in Washington. Welcome to our viewers in the United States and around the world on this Saturday evening. You are live in the CNN newsroom, and breaking news tonight, a third COVID-19 vaccine has been authorized for emergency use by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Deemed safe and effective, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is expected to clear its final hurdles at the CDC by early next week, and it couldn't come soon enough as more than 500,000 American lives have been lost to this pandemic. CNN's Natasha Chin has the very latest on how this FDA emergency use authorization will change the fight against the virus.
A third coronavirus vaccine will likely become available as soon as next week, now that the Food and Drug Administration has authorized Johnson & Johnson's single-dose vaccine for emergency use.
Significantly, the vaccine is highly effective in preventing severe COVID-19.
The Johnson & Johnson vaccine requires no complex refrigeration and only one dose. The company says it's ready to begin shipping doses as early as Sunday.
Having an additional safe and effective vaccine will help protect more people faster.
And more people are eager to get one. A Kaiser Family Foundation report on Friday showed 55% of surveyed adults in the U.S. had either had at least one vaccine dose or is eager to get one. That's up from early December, when only about a third of adults surveyed wanted a vaccine. There's still more demand than supply, especially after last week's winter storm sweeping through the Midwest and Texas disrupted the supply chain all over the U.S.
Vaccination sites like this one outside of Atlanta saw none of that severe weather but are feeling the effects. This afternoon, they're seeing all the people whose scheduled second dose appointments were canceled last week due to shipment delays caused by the severe weather.
More groups of people, like younger adults with underlying health conditions, are becoming eligible for the vaccine in some states.
I think I was actually shaking because I was like, oh my gosh, I can go get it. I think I was the youngest one that had been through so far, and so they were all like, wait, we don't know what to do yet.
With nearly 7% of the country fully vaccinated, the number of cases, deaths, and hospitalizations continue to stay lower than the holiday peak. But the majority of U.S. states have plateaued or worsened when it comes to new cases. Only 17 states show downward trends. This relative progress is threatened by rapidly spreading variants.
We have variants that are in play. We must address these.
And the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions in many states. New York nursing homes reopened with restrictions Friday to some visitors, and Tennessee lifts restrictions on visiting its long-term care facilities Sunday. South Carolina will lift restrictions on mass gatherings starting Monday.
I'm worried that people are lifting restrictions saying this is over when the reality is we're not over yet. We're really right now in a race between variants and vaccines, and we have to do whatever we can to shut down this virus.
Natasha Chen, CNN, Atlanta.
Conservatives are looking for a reset this weekend at their national convention in Florida. But after losing the White House and Senate, there is one speaker who will command more attention than all the others. Just hours from now, former President Donald J. Trump. Jim Acosta is in Orlando tonight watching a CPAC gathering like no other. Jim?
Pam, even though Donald Trump is a defeated ex-president, this is a Trump love fest at CPAC. He is, of course, going to be giving the closing speech on Sunday at this conference. But in addition to that, you're seeing Trump world figures roaming the corridors of this CPAC. We saw Trump advisor Roger Stone making the rounds, talking to fanboys who would come up to him and ask for his autograph, ask for a selfie with Roger Stone. We also, at one point, tried to catch up with former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. We tried to ask Pompeo whether or not he still stands by this comment that he made shortly after the 2020 election when he said that there would be a continuation or a transition to a new Trump administration. Obviously, that didn't happen, and Pompeo didn't want to talk to us. But all throughout this convention, speaker after speaker, they are making the case that the future of the Republican Party depends on Donald Trump. And we saw that earlier in the day when Congressman Jim Banks was making that case to the crowd here at CPAC. Here's what happened.
The most popular Republican figure in Congress today is Kevin McCarthy. Let me tell you who the least popular Republicans in the party are today. They're those few, very few, Matt.
There's tittering out there. I just want you to know.
Those very few Republicans, the least popular in our party, are the ones who want to erase Donald Trump and Donald Trump supporters from our party. If that happens, we won't win back the majority in 2022.
And Pam, anytime you try to talk to some of the attendees here at CPAC about whether Donald Trump in fact lost the election or whether he had anything to do with the violence that we saw on January 6th, some of these CPAC attendees will become irate, even hostile with you. As for the former president, as he prepares for this speech on Sunday, he is meeting with ex-advisors down at Mar-a-Lago. In fact, tonight he is having dinner with his former acting director of national intelligence, Rick Grinnell. Pam?
Our thanks to Jim Acosta. And my next guest is a Republican who has split with the mainstream GOP on big issues like COVID and the election. Utah Governor Spencer Cox is with me now. Nice to have you on, Governor.
Hey, it's great to be with you, Pamela.
So let's start with this breaking news that the FDA granted an emergency use authorization for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. How big of a development is this, and have you been given the details you need to plan for the arrival of these new vaccines?
Yeah, we have. We've been working very closely with other governors and with the Biden administration, assuming that this would be happening. We all hoped it would happen. We've been praying it would happen, and it did indeed happen. And we expect that we will be getting several thousand doses in the next couple days. That's been open to us. We've been planning for it. This is big news. It's a single-dose vaccine. It doesn't require the refrigeration, and it's just another tool we have in fighting this terrible virus. And honestly, right now, of course, we have a supply problem. Demand is far outpacing supply. But with what we know from Moderna and Pfizer, now with Johnson & Johnson, by the end of March and into April, we're going to have a demand problem. And that's going to be a better problem to have.
Well, let me just ask you really quickly, though. So you're saying you're going to get the vaccine. You've been coordinating with the Biden administration, and you expect it to be soon. Does that mean you expect shots in the arms from the Johnson & Johnson vaccine in this coming week?
Yes, that's correct. We expect shots in arms this coming week. We know they have about 4 million doses on hand right now, ready to go out. They'll start shipping those out, we believe, on Monday. We should have those shots, we think, on Wednesday, and shots in arms on Thursday and Friday. That's a big deal for our state and for Americans everywhere.
That is a big deal. And you've also been very optimistic about your state's trajectory overall with COVID, and you've even made this prediction earlier this week. Let's listen.
I'm telling you, I'm not going to be wearing this on the 4th of July. And I'm going to be in a parade somewhere, and you're going to be there covering the parade, and you're going to be really excited, and we're going to put these in the fireworks and blow them up or burn them or something. I don't know what, we're going to do something. But if I'm wrong, then I'll come here and I'll admit that I'm wrong and that we're going to do something different.
Now, as you know, Dr. Fauci has warned we could be wearing masks until next year, and health experts say Americans need to be vigilant because there could be another surge with these new variants. Does your rhetoric about no masks by July 4th undermine that message that people should not let their guards down right now?
No, in fact, I think it's the exact opposite, and I'm really worried about that message that we're hearing. And look, Dr. Fauci and others, they're brilliant, and they get paid. Their job is to be cautious. That's what they're supposed to do. And so they're looking at all the possibilities out there and warning that we have to be cautious. But I think they may be having the opposite effect. If we keep telling people that nothing's going to change with these miracle drugs that we have, then they're going to take their foot off the pedal now, because people aren't going to be able to do this forever. They need to know that there's hope. They need to know that there's something bright at the end of this, and we have that now. We have these vaccines. They are miracle vaccines. I mean, the numbers are incredible. 75,000 people with these 3 vaccines in the United States during the trials. Not one of them died. Not one of them was hospitalized after 4 weeks. This is the message people need to hear, so that they will be careful now. They'll get the vaccine. They'll get the second dose or the first dose with Johnson & Johnson, and knowing that we're going to get out of this. That's what's going to keep people vigilant, not telling them that maybe in a year or 2 from now we'll be able to take our masks off. So I actually think that message is harmful. I think a message of positivity that we know something better is coming is the right message right now.
And you're willing to amend that message if we still see surges and the numbers like we're seeing right now, right?
Oh, of course. And that's what's important. Again, the experts have been wrong. By the way, go back and look in December. Every single expert and every single model said that right now we would be peaking. Going into March, we would be peaking and then slowly coming down. And the exact opposite happened. So look, we just don't know about this virus. We learn and we adapt. But having a hopeful message right now in 2021 with what we know about where the surge is, and it's falling, where vaccines are, what's happening with variants right now, all the news is positive, and we need to be sharing that with people so they will get the vaccine, so that they will be ready to get their lives back to normal.
A lot is positive, but the variants that we're seeing emerge, that's certainly not positive and of concern. But I see the argument that you're making, that you need to be optimistic. It's interesting, though, because as you know, many Republicans felt that mask mandates and COVID restrictions took away their freedoms. Former President Trump led that charge on messaging. Tomorrow he'll speak at CPAC. Is he the future of the Republican Party, in your view?
Well, I don't know what the future of the Republican Party is right now. I just want to go back to variants for a second. We are worried about variants, but the latest news on variants is better than what we've been hearing a month or two ago. And so we're cautiously optimistic there. But look, Republicans will decide the future of the Republican Party. Certainly, he plays a very important role, just like President Obama did when he was finished. I mean, he was someone that people look to. I think he's one of the reasons that President Biden was elected. Was he had a long tail that carried Biden along with him, and that's what presidents do. They're part of the party as they leave. Whether how important he will be in 4 years, I can't say, but he's certainly an important part of the party right now.
But what's unique about this is he lost the White House and he is essentially being exalted at CPAC that we're seeing right now. Would you support Trump if he were the Republican nominee in 2024?
Well, it would be difficult for me. I've said that before. It was difficult for me in the past. And so, I'm probably not the best guest to talk about this. I'm the boring guest who hasn't watched 1 minute of CPAC. We're right in the middle of our legislative session, and we're trying to govern, and we're dealing with this pandemic. I don't pay attention to CPAC and those sorts of things. I don't think most Republicans do. And so again, we'll have a process that we go through. We'll decide. I like builders. I believe in people who are trying to build the party up and build people up and make our country a better place. We haven't always seen that. And so I hope that there are some builders that rise to the top of the party.
All right. Republican Governor Spencer Cox, thank you for coming on the show. We hope you'll come back and talk with us as we continue to cover COVID and all kinds of issues.
Thank you, Pamela.
And we have more breaking news coming into the CNN newsroom. The New York Times is reporting that New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is now being accused of sexual harassment by a second former aide. Also ahead, a rally in New York in support of Asian Americans after a surge of hate crimes. Actor, author, and activist George Takei joins me later this hour to discuss. Well, the New York Times is reporting that New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is being accused of sexual harassment by a second former aide. The woman telling the New York Times that Governor Cuomo harassed her late last spring. The former executive assistant and health policy advisor for Cuomo claims at one point she was alone in the office with him, and he asked her if she, quote, had ever been with an older man. She left the job in November. In a statement to the New York Times today, Cuomo denied making advances toward the accuser, adding, quote, nor did I ever intend to act in any way that was inappropriate. And he has now called for an outside review of the matter. Earlier this week, Cuomo denied allegations recently made by a separate former aide who accused him of sexually harassing her in 2018. Well, Donald Trump is the clear headliner tomorrow at CPAC, but plenty of big names and rising stars in the GOP are looking for breakout moments of their own this weekend. I want to bring in CNN political commentator and Republican strategist Alice Stewart and CNN political commentator and Democratic strategist Maria Cardona. Ladies, great to have you on this Saturday evening. Much to discuss. And Alice, I'm going to start with you. Given everything that's going on with CPAC, Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis is certainly among those whose name is growing in popularity among conservatives. I want to get your reaction to what he told the CPAC audience on Friday. Let's watch.
Now, Florida's leading on the issues that matter to conservatives. We don't spout hollow rhetoric. We take decisive action. And what's true in Florida is true for conservatives across the nation. We cannot, we will not go back to the days of the failed Republican establishment of yesteryear.
So, Alice, when he trashes the GOP of yesteryear, what is he talking about exactly? And do you agree with him on what the GOP is now?
Well, that's a great question, Pam, because if you look at since former President Trump was in office, we lost the House and the Senate and the White House. But that being said, he might certainly be someone who is defeated as a president, but he is still the de facto head of the Republican Party and certainly CPAC. And the reason for that is because a lot of these people look at President Trump, former President Trump, as more of a political person, and they look at politics as a pragmatic means for implementing policies that are consistent with their principles. And if you look at the people that are at CPAC, they are strongly conservative, constitutionalists. They support limited government, individual liberties, freedom of speech, and they're looking at Donald Trump as the vessel for those policies that are important to them. In terms of the demeanor and tone, for many of them, that just adds even more icing on the cake for them. But the key is we cannot continue to go down this revenge politics and what we're going to hear tomorrow from the president, questioning the integrity of the election, because a lot of that is simply not going to work. And we need to keep Donald Trump and the 74 million people that voted for him on board moving forward into the next election. But we also need to grow, and we need to bring in a lot of the people that stood on the sidelines because they didn't support the tone and tenor of Trump.
And Maria, I'm going to get you in just a second, but I want to follow up with you, Alice, because your former boss spoke, Senator Ted Cruz, with this message at CPAC. Let's listen.
And they want him to go away. Let me tell you this right now. Donald J. Trump ain't going anywhere.
I mean, that would have been a surprising statement from Cruz a few years ago. Is he right?
Well, it would have been. I was with him a few years ago when he would not have said that by any stretch of the imagination, I can assure you. But the truth is, as we're hearing and is quite evident that Donald Trump is here and he's not going anywhere. And for the people that are the core base of the party, they love that. And I think that's going to be a strong benefit for Republicans as we get to primaries. But it obviously is not a winning formula for general elections. And I'm hoping that we turn all of the focus from now until 2022 on nominating strong conservatives and Republicans that can not only win a primary, but also will win in the general election so we can win back the House and in hopes of winning back the Senate.
What do you think, Maria?
I think that the Republican Party is absolutely still in the throes of the cult of personality of Donald Trump. I don't think it has anything to do with policies. I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that CPAC is full of constitutionalists, because in fact, if that was right, they would have been the first ones to step up to the plate and tell Donald Trump to stop spreading the big lie of the conspiracy that he keeps stating, and he probably will restate it again tomorrow, that he actually won the election and that it was stolen from him. I think this bodes very badly for the Republican Party moving forward. Look, some of these candidates that are bowing at the altar of Donald Trump, they're not bowing at the altar of conservative principles. They're bowing at the altar of Donald Trump. They might see short-term gain because they will have Donald Trump support them either with money or tweet. Well, he can't do tweets anymore, statements, speeches. But long-term, look, the party that Donald Trump is trying to grow is not growing. What you're going to see tomorrow, and if this is correct, if Jason and Stephen Miller were the ones who actually helped him write his speech, it's going to be full of anti-immigrant rhetoric, of building the border, of immigration in terms of America first, and those are not policies that go towards growing the party. They need to appeal more to a multicultural segment of the country that is absolutely growing, more African Americans, more Latinos, more women. And what you are seeing from a general election standpoint, Pam, is that this is a party that is shrinking. So you know what? As a Democrat, I'm like, bring it on, because the more that Republicans bow at the altar of Donald Trump and start kissing his ring and have no idea how to go about growing the their party, the better it is going to be for Democrats in all kinds of elections up and down the ticket.
But does it worry you at all, Maria? Should it worry Democrats more that you're seeing so many conservatives, even ones that have come out against Trump, Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, even Lindsey Graham right after the January 6th riot, and now they're all kissing the ring again? Should that make Democrats nervous that he still holds that much sway over the party? And he did win. He did win the election. He lost this last election, but the one before that, he did win.
Yes, it absolutely it makes us nervous, Pam. It is actually spine-tingling and scary because what you saw were supposedly leaders in the Republican Party who were folks who understood how important it was to stand up for the Constitution, and they were there at Donald Trump's side when he was posing this lie and telling his followers that he was the one who won the election. Mitch McConnell, he got kudos, for a couple of floor speeches where he actually said that Donald Trump was in the wrong. But what did he do for 4 years, Pam? He, along with so many other leaders of the Republican Party, they enabled Trump. They gave him the power. They handed the power over to him. So yes, in that sense, it absolutely is scary because you do have 74 million people who supported Donald Trump. I don't think the bulk of them were supportive of the Trump riot that happened on January 6th that killed 6 Americans, but many of them are so susceptible to whatever comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. So many of them, I believe, have been pushed into the cult of Donald Trump. And when you have Republican leaders who are not able to stand up to
quickly,
that,
Alice, because I'm getting wrapped in my ear. But Alice, I want to give you a chance very quickly.
Very quickly, we've spent this entire time talking about the divide in the GOP and how it's divided. But one thing's for sure, the GOP and Republicans are united in the effort to stop the policies, progressive policies of President Biden, who ran as being a moderate, and he is doing everything he can to push progressive policies.
Well, we're going to have you ladies back on because I see you shaking your head, Maria, and there's more to discuss on that front as well. So, ladies, please come back on the show soon to continue this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you, Pam. Great to be with you.
And up next on this Saturday evening, I'll be speaking to the legendary actor, author, and activist George Takei about the disturbing surge in hate crimes against Asian Americans. We'll be right back. Right now, the U.S. is seeing a startling rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans. Police attribute almost all of those crimes to the coronavirus pandemic. And you may recognize actor George Takei from his years as Mr. Sulu in the original Star Trek TV series and movies. But in his memoir, They Called Us Enemy, Takei takes us inside his real-life childhood as a prisoner in an American internment camp for people of Japanese descent during World War II. It is a sobering story that began with Takei, just 4 years old and born in the U.S., being forced along with his family from their home, shipped to relocation centers, and held for years under armed guard. George Takei joins us now. George, it's so nice to have you on the show. It really is. And you obviously have such an important perspective, experience, voice on this issue. With everything you went through as a child, what is it like now to be going through this rise in attacks on Asian Americans?
Well, thank you for the invitation. Yes, this is very, very concerning, and it's terrorizing in many sectors of this country. Asian American hate has been as organic to American history, not as long as discrimination against African Americans that began in 1619, but it's been a steady ferment in the United States from the very first Asian that came to this country about in the middle of the 19th century. That was the Chinese coming first, and in my hometown of Los Angeles, back in 1871, there was a case where a white woman complained about being harassed by a Chinese man, and very quickly a vigilante mob formed, poured into Chinatown, at random dragged out 17 young Chinese men, and they strung them up in the Central Plaza of Los Angeles from this giant tree. That plaza is still there. It's a historic monument. But 17 Chinese were lynched there back in 1871. And so whenever there is an incident against Asians, it surges up. And as you noted in my introduction, when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, and we're Americans. My mother was born in Sacramento. My father was born in Japan, but he was brought to San Francisco when he was a young boy, and he was educated and reared in San Francisco. And so he was Japanese in birth only, but he was of Japanese ancestry. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor, this xenophobic hysteria swept across the country, and that hysteria reached even the presidency of the United States. And I don't know what it is with...
There we go.
Sorry about
nice
that.
save. No, we're all used to these technical issues in the era of COVID.
We are in the COVID technological... Sometimes sound goes out. But the President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, signed an executive order ordering all people of Japanese ancestry on the West Coast, approximately 120,000 of us, which I happen to be one, to be summarily rounded up at gunpoint and imprisoned in barbed wire prison camps. And I remember my experiences in 3 of those camps. We were first sent to the horse stables of Santa Anita because the camps weren't built yet. So we were imprisoned in a horse stall. Can you imagine? 3 children and my parents in a horse stall for about 3 or 4 months. And then we were shipped out to the swamps of Arkansas. They were all in the most desolate and godforsaken places in this country. And we were there for about a year and a half, and then transferred to another camp in Northern California. Here it is again. No. Something's wrong with this. And so now the president that came before President Biden during the pandemic continued to refer to the pandemic or the virus as the Chinese virus or the Wuhan virus or Kung flu, and just agitated, and it came to a head again, surging, and Asian Americans were innocent Asian Americans, had nothing to do with it, were victimized by these hate attacks. In San Francisco, an elderly Asian man, I think he was 81, was walking down the sidewalk, and this 19-year-old boy came running toward him at full speed down the sidewalk and smacked him down on the sidewalk with such impact that he was killed. He died.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so many other horrific examples. In New York, you saw we just heard about this incident there where an Asian man was stabbed in the torso, went right through his liver. I mean, it's just, there's
or a woman set on fire.
A woman said, I mean, it is disgusting. There is no excuse for this. And I'm so glad you laid out the historical perspective, too. And what you went through as a 4-year-old little boy, I'm just picturing you in a horse stall with your family for 3 to 4 months. And then to think what is happening right now.
Sorry about this.
No, that's fine. These things happen. But I want to just ask you, though, as a 4-year-old going through that, and now in this time where Asian Americans are being targeted, what is it like for you personally? I mean, obviously you're famous, you're well known. Sorry, you're...
Brad, something's wrong here.
Well, perhaps we can go back to you, George, and once you sort out the technical issue there. I think all of us who had to work from home during this time Can really. Okay, so you're back. Okay, so let me just wrap this up. What has the personal experience been like for you? I mean, are you concerned about leaving your house now and just walking down the sidewalk? I mean, we've heard from many people who are now even afraid of doing simple daily activities because of what we're seeing.
Well, we are strict observers of the quarantine protocols, so we don't leave the house. Only once a day do we leave the house, and that's at 6:30 in the morning when we go off for our 45-minute walk in the neighborhood, and we live in a very safe neighborhood, Hancock Park. So that's the only time we expose ourselves to that. But it is really frightening, and I can't imagine people who live in other neighborhoods, Asian Americans, going out. That we are fearful of going out and being victimized. And it is random, it is senseless, it is irrational, and it is terrifying. And well, some people have been killed.
It just makes your blood boil. It's just so awful. But George Takei, thank you for coming on and lending your voice to this really important issue that's happening right now in our country. And we hope to have you back. Hopefully, we'll get the sound issues worked out for the next time you come on the show, George. Thanks so much for coming on.
Happier issue, I hope.
All right, we'll be right back.
Nicorette knows quitting smoking is hard.